really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and D-gentlemen of all ages. It is time for one of our more special streams this evening, and that is the Q3 Thesis for 2024. We are going to be covering our projection through the end of September for everything from the macroeconomic markets to the crypto markets, covering major macroeconomic events and crypto events that we are on the lookouts for. And finally, we're going to tie it all together with a little bit of a general assessment of the not quite a state of the union, but state of the nation and how we're going and how that plays into the part of being the best investor that you can possibly be. Will we be doing a little bit of this tonight? Decent chance. But the point is we also want to be providing excellent sources, excellent information, and excellent reliable data. So with that being said, it's time to be a little bit more professional by myself, but I'm not going to require anyone else to do so because we have the rest of the DGen All-Star team assembled tonight, starting off with my co-host, Will Stevenson. How's it going, brother?
Ahoy and aloha, amigos. I am stoked to get this underway. So let's fucking I almost said pull chocks. Unfurl the mains and set free the cables and heave anchor and get after it. I'm just excited to fucking be here, and you know, like hearing that Joe Biden's dropping out of this race is a super duper crazy big surprise. So we're gonna probably cover that at some point too. But let's fucking get into it, guys. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Will Stevenson. I'm a networking guy for the DGen Roundtable, and I roll around the states building TV towers and stream with these motherfuckers. Mr. J, what's new and exciting with you, bro?
Hey, you know, man, same shit, different day over here in sunny Arizona. I would say that I'm still accumulating more dry powder. I mean, I am, but it's probably going to go into much more newer projects. I am pretty much filled on all of my, you could say, like legacy positions that I've held, that I built up during the bottom of the bear market. And so all the new capital that I'm building right now is probably going to new protocols. As far as what's new and exciting, man, there's never a dull day in crypto, even when it is sideways action. And over the past week, we have just basically continued that upwards trajectory. Over the last week or so, during our emergency streams, I outlined the potential for a possible pullback, right? That the bears were still in control, because even though on the daily charts we are fairly bullish, you have to realize that the last two 60-day cycles have basically been lower highs and lower lows. However, I also gave both soft and hard invalidations for the potential bearish action, and we basically hit my hard invalidation. And so I do not think that we are going to go below the current lows for Bitcoin, which is about 53,500, I believe. I do not think we are going to see that price for a very long time, probably not until the very next bear market. I think we're going to ride this bullish momentum into the rest of Q3, into Q4. So I'm excited, man. I'm very excited to have this conversation because my goodness. Also, if you guys didn't catch Brendan and myself, we were at our good friends Go Fud Yourself. Brendan was in earlier on Monday during the Monday episode, and then me and him, as well as Mr. Nate McGettit, who could not join us tonight, unfortunately, but he's probably watching in chat. We were there on the Friday show talking about a lot of the news that hit the fan over the past week or so, and we're going to dissect a little bit more of that here tonight on the Q3 Thesis episode. But yeah, go on over there and give them a like and give them a follow. They give a lot of good information. But yeah, man, how about you, Mr. Bean? Good to see you, my friend.
What is up, my hat brethren and Zenith? I am very excited for tonight's show. You know, I think it's always some of my favorite shows when we're doing, you know, thesis shows. If we're doing perfect storm theory shows, which we might have to revisit here in the near future because more and more puzzle pieces have fallen into place in the last 4 months. So episode 4, we did a perfect storm theory that was like what seemed like at the time a wild potential like ride to get to where we needed to get. And slowly we started to stack those puzzle pieces. And then 4 months ago, we did another stream. And since then, we continue to put those puzzle pieces into place. And so tonight, we're going to start to show you a little bit of the picture that is shaping up. And I'm really excited about it because, look, what are we at? 68,000, give or take, on Bitcoin. I love that. I am excited about where we're going. And I don't know if it's just green candles that get you this way, but I was always in the 150K camp. But I'm starting to think that there's a possibility that we might even be able to go higher than that this cycle. So, Zenith, let's get into it, baby.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Before we get into it, we are going to say hello to all the beautiful people out there that tune in and hang out. And also, we look forward to answering any questions that you have for us. But yes, like Will is holding up down below, it is time for chat shoutouts. So let's see who's in the hangout tonight. Up first, it looks like we have Nate the Great. It says, I'm looking forward to this. Yes, sir. Excellent Pulse X logo, by the way. That is primo. Up next, we got Ray giving us some muscles and an astronaut. That's right. Pump incoming. When? We might have some speculation on when pump, but yeah, moon at some point in the near-ish future. And by that, I mean within the decade. So, all right. Up next, we have a man whose nickname has become more and more relevant lately, and that is 54 Cent or Centurion 54X. Says, "What's up, Degens? Good to see you, brother. Glad to have you around."
50 Cent.
Next, we have Vast Abdul, the camel trader himself. He says, "Tell me your secrets. We are spilling all the secrets tonight, brother. And if you have any questions about the stuff we're talking about tonight, please put it in the chat. We will get to it, and we will try to delve deep on everything we possibly can." Up next, we got another good friend of the channel and guy who's doing some good workout in the crypto space. That is Vets in Crypto saying, bang, bang. Bang, bang, brother. Good to see you, man. We have good friend of the channel, Farmer J, a.k.a. Brown. Used to be Brown 310, but now just Brown. Says, shout out to Heels Up Harris 2024.
Oh, my goodness.
I think it's a reference to something that I'm not quite fully understanding, but I think I know where he's coming from on that.
Hey,
I
man.
can tell you, but you won't like it.
Well, let's save it for later in the stream so we hopefully don't get too wrecked. All right, up next, we got Hex Glenn. Saying happy Sunday, guys. Happy Sunday, Glenn. Hope you're having a great weekend. I know I got a little color on my face from golfing today, but well worth it. It was a great day. Up next, we got Hexagon Lesson Asia. Says, nice headwear, D-gents. Yes, nice headwear, D-gents.
Thanks, sir.
Last but not least, we have another excellent good friend of the channel and someone that's usually in here extra early. That is Paul Sachs. He says, wow, that's a lot of damage. Long live Billy Mays. Good to see you, boys. Good to see you too, Paul Sachs. All right, gentlemen. Quarter 3 thesis show. So the way that this is going to work is we are going to go through our big 4 areas. We're going to cover our generalist 5 area at the end. So we're going to start off talking about crypto markets, our predictions. Then we're going to talk about crypto events to look out for in the near future. And then we're going to talk about macro economic stuff and the macro events going on for that. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with a little bit of trying to read the tea leaves or the chicken bones about what's going on in the United States. Because guess what? That's where all of us live. Sorry to dox you guys, but yeah, we are Americans. And I am very unashamed about that. Very proud of it, in fact.
You know,
Okay.
Zenith, I have a question.
Canceled, Z.
Z, you said that you were
Come at me.
golfing today?
Yes, I shot a Barry Bonds 42 over
Nice.
9.
Nice. That's actually not
Big
bad.
asterisk on the end of it.
That's still pretty nice. Hey, so is Barry Bonds. Oh, you know, Biden, I hear golfs, and he might have a lot of extra time on his hands, so maybe he can get out there and just foursome.
Oh yeah, look, if I can get on that, if I can get in that foursome, that'd be a good one. If there is the ultimate political tournament between Trump, Biden, and then a lot of the political representatives, A, I think it'd be a killer fundraiser, but B, that would be an awesome event.
I don't know who wants to get in on a foursome with Biden, but that ain't me. I know that this is a golf word, but my mind's not on golf right now.
That's
You guys
true.
are
Look,
you guys are fucking crazy.
if I
enough
get
of this.
hooked up with them, I'm riding
So-
with Donnie.
Oh yeah.
You're dressed like a pirate, so you're probably more like into pillaging and having consensual relations with women.
Oh yes. Yes, that's my
True.
vibe.
Alrighty. So, by the way, what we are talking about is obviously President Joe Biden just announced today that he's no longer seeking the nomination for the Democratic Party. That is news that came out today around like noon, if I'm not mistaken. Fun fact, if you go look at the hourly chart for Bitcoin, there is a massive double-ended candle specifically right around the time of that announcement. And since then, it has been up. So I'm just going to say the market might have some thoughts on that. But I will say this is nothing that is very surprising. Because as part of the thesis we're going to talk about tonight is that unfortunately, it's been a wild ride up to this point. And until November and all the dust settles, it's going to continue to get crazier. So strap in, folks. That's kind of the thesis on the generalized American stuff going on. But outside of that, the markets hopefully are going to be okay. I mean, my general thesis is largely sideways until about 6 months after the halving, and then we go up. So speaking of which, we are going to jump right into it. And Mrs. Producer, I do have a screen share for you if you do not mind. All right. Y'all know where we're going. Bitcoin leads the market, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to be looking at that. Right now, we are sitting at day 17 of the current cycle by my count. If anyone has contradicting opinions, I'm more than happy to hear it and field it. We can discuss. I know there's a massive question mark over this last cycle or the end of the last cycle and how that translates into the new one, but I think we have a very, very clear picture currently, and it makes sense by my count now. When we were in the thick of it here at the early part of July, it was not very clear, but now that we got more data, I think it is. So right now, Bitcoin price is at 68,000 and change, and we are on a massive uptrend. It is possible to draw a bit of a 5-wave sequence on the short term, starting out at our cycle low, going up to this high where we touched the 20-day moving average, dropped down, had a nice wave 3 up here, breaking through the 111-day moving average, capitulating, and now we look like we might be on a bit of a wave 5. That's my count anyways, but the most important thing here is we did regain the 111-day moving average. That is something that we should be watching out for on the bull market trends. And then additionally, we also got up above the 140-day moving average, aka the 20-week moving average as well. So we've recovered some very, very important areas after we had a bit of a dip. I know everyone was, I heard some people calling for 32K Bitcoin incoming, like it was a guaranteed thing, like it was locked in. And I respectfully told those people, good sir, you are high as a kite. Because that is, I mean, even on the downside, I was looking at it, we have pretty solid support at like 52.5, 50.5, and then 48,000. And that is primarily from our last run up, along with some of the previous, levels in the past. But anyways, back to today, because that's all that really matters right now. So right now, my proposal, gentlemen, is that this 60-day cycle is largely going to be similar to the last ones, which is that we're going to see a bit of a flat pattern when you zoom out. We're probably going to go up. We're going to challenge 70,000, maybe 71. And then we're going to drop back down for a very healthy, very regular, mostly sideways cycle. And then after that, we're going to get to a magical point in the market where we're starting to chopping slightly up and to the right before we really take off. And that magical point that I'm talking about is 6 months after the halving. So if you remember, we had the halving back on April 19th here, or April 20th if you use the universal time code. So 6 months after that is going to be October, which is not this quarter. So my prediction for the quarter is largely sideways with slightly up, because we're going to end the quarter in mid-September, which by my count, if we have a full 60-day cycle, that will take us to September 3rd. So if we go till the end of September, that is 87 days from this cycle, which means it's probably halfway into the next cycle. I'm just kind of banking on a very average 60-day cycle for the next two, which is very reasonable because it's right in the middle. And that's what I'm seeing right now. I agree with Jay when you were talking in the beginning about how we're probably never going to see 53,500 Bitcoin until the next bear market. I completely agree. We were very, very oversold, and we even had a bit of a double bottom here on the RSI. I think that is a very important thing to keep in mind. And the reason that I think we're approaching the top of our current cycle is that the RSI is about to go into overbought territory as well. So right now, I think we're about almost at the halfway. I still see some additional upside. We want to test this upwards area. The highs of each cycle has slowly been getting lower and lower, and I expect the same here. All right, gentlemen, does anyone have a dissenting opinion? I would love to hear it.
Not necessarily dissenting, just slightly modified version of what you have. I would like to add on to it. If I could share my screen over here for Bitcoin. Give me 1 second. I am more than happy to add on to Zenith's analysis.
While Jay is pulling that up, I just want to bring to attention for the folks at home, there's 4 deer that just ran in front of my truck right now. I wish I had a fucking rifle ready. Oh, man. There's one of them's a 3-point, or excuse me, a 6-point buck, and then the other 3 are all does, presumably. But, man, it sucks when you're not ready.
Where you at, brother?
Oh, I'm in Ozark, Missouri. So shout out to all my Missouri folks out there. I'll be hitting you all up in the Missouri chat within the Hex Meetup community right now, but I am just south of Springfield.
Like it. All right, Jay, what you got for us, brother?
Okay, so some of this is going to be a little bit of a review, but for the folks at home who did not catch the emergency streams, this was the scenario that we were playing with earlier during the week, right? We thought that this zigzag pattern could potentially be still looking for a new bottom, right? Which was a reasonable argument because, like I mentioned earlier, for the last 2 consecutive 60-day cycles, we've clocked in lower highs and lower lows. And so we were aiming for the completion of this zigzag pattern to terminate at around this range of between $50,000 to $53,000 for Bitcoin, which is where this last range of support was going to hold. Right? And the pattern that we were looking for the completion of this zigzag was this, right? The impulsive 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to finish, right? However, when Bitcoin started moving to the upside here, I told folks during the emergency stream that the soft invalidation for this zigzag pattern, right, was if we took the 0.618 fib retracement from our swing high here to our cycle low back in early July. This was on the 5th of July of this year, right? And I said that it's a soft invalidation because if we were to get significant bearish news over this week, that it was certainly possible for price to be pushed down into a new cycle low, which would coincide with that 50,000 to 53,000 band of support that I mentioned earlier. However, the hard invalidation for this impulse to the downside was already taken, and that was this move to the upside taking the top of this wave 1, right? If you know anything about Elliott wave, you know that unless we are dealing with a diagonal pattern, which this is not, that your wave 4, which this was, we were playing around with the idea that this was a potential wave 4 before heading into the final wave 5 of that zigzag, right? It could not enter the price territory of your wave 1, and that was here at $66,662. And as you can clearly see by the price action on today's chart, that we have reclaimed that level. And so this basically invalidates the bearish thesis, which means this zigzag pattern, this corrective wave 4 pattern, has already been completed and terminated here at our cycle low of $53,500. Okay, so now the only thing left to consider is the bullish move to the upside. Now, I know that Z said that we could potentially have more of a sideways action because, yes, I agree with him that this move here to the upside looks very impulsive, right? You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, unless the Ethereum ETFs unless the market responds to the Ethereum ETFs in the same exact way that they did to the Bitcoin ETFs, I think that we still have a little bit more room to run to the upside before we actually have a healthy retracement in the market before finally going up to new all-time highs. Why do I say that? Well, when the ETFs go live on Tuesday of next week, you also have to realize that on that same week, this is on Saturday, July 27th, we have Bitcoin Nashville. And if you've been keeping up with the news over the past few weeks, you know that aside from the very familiar faces that you're going to see over there at Bitcoin Nashville, like Michael Saylor, we also have the Republican nominee for the presidency, Donald J. Trump, appearing and doing a keynote speech over at the Bitcoin Nashville event, right? And if he announces that he is going to try and create some kind of reserve, Bitcoin reserve to back up the US dollar, then you're going to certainly see a significant reaction to the upside in the markets. Also, on day, just slightly before day 30 of the cycle, right, we have on Wednesday, the 31st, so the very last day of July, we have the FOMC meeting. Now, you know that if you've been keeping up with all of the inflation news, all of the job news, you know that inflation has now hit 3%. And that the labor markets are softening to a degree that Jerome Powell would like to see, right? Unemployment ticked up slightly during the last jobs report. And so if Jerome Powell during this FOMC meeting is a little bit more dovish, that is also going to provide more upside momentum for price. Okay. And so what are our potential targets if we were going to see a more upside during this impulse, right? Well, I went over this a little bit in the chat. However, I could give the gang here some targets. If we have a wave 1 here, right, take that extension tool to the top of our wave 4 to the end. My targets for this wave 5 impulse, right, if it has not been exhausted, and yes, as he mentioned, we are going into the oversold area here on the RS side. However, we still have a healthy amount of volume coming in and no bearish divergence on the daily chart. And so what is a common extension for the wave 5? Well, a common extension for the wave 5 is, surprise, surprise, at the very top of our parallel range that we have been trading in since February of this year at about $71,840 for Bitcoin, right? The 618 to 786 extension is a very common extension for the wave 5. And so, yes, could we potentially see a new all-time high for Bitcoin before we go into a retracement into that local wave 2? Absolutely. So keep an eye out for these targets, anywhere between 71,840 to $74,427 for Bitcoin, right? Also, local wave 1s since the start of our bear market have averaged about 20 days or so. If we go back here to the start of our macro wave 3, right? This wave 1 impulse lasted 21 days. And if we go to the very beginning of our bull cycle, right? This wave 1 here lasted 23 days. So we have an average of about 21 days for every local wave 1. And so we are now currently on day 17. So if we were to take that average, we would expect the wave 1 top to occur sometime next week, precisely, to be precise, around July 26th of next week, right? And so keep an eye out for that particular date, right? Because like I said, we average about 21 days for a local wave 1 impulse, and keep an eye out for the price to keep heading up if we have not exhausted this bullish move to the upside, to hit anywhere between $71,800 to about $74,000 for Bitcoin, which would give us a new all-time high before finally retracing to the downside. But currently, the momentum is in the bull side, and so what if we head up to about $71,000? Right, I expect us to get rejected somewhere around there. Probably head down to about the middle of this range to about $65,500. I expect this range to hold as support before bullish continuation to the upside. So the only thing that I really disagree with on Zenith's analysis is I think that we are going to see slightly more bullish action to the upside as opposed to a consolidating sideways action, right? Just by the nature of wave 2s, they tend to be short and steep to the downside. And so I think we get rejected. We get rejected harshly, head back down to about the middle of this range, and then bullish continuation to the upside, right? So that's really all I wanted to add in terms of the Bitcoin analysis for Q3. I think we ride this move up to a right translated cycle all the way up into day 60, which is going to be September 3rd, right? That is the end of the current 60-day cycle. And so that's where my current analysis lies. So if you would like to add anything to that, Bean, Will, if you would like to add anything to that, please do so.
Will do. I got a question for you. So on the Fibonacci retracement that you drew for us, there were two numbers that I have been hearing as speculative targets for this 60-day cycle, which is anywhere between about 81,000 to 84,000 for Bitcoin. Those do line up nicely with some of the Fibonacci numbers, but I wanted to get your take on if you think that those are reachable targets for this 60-day cycle. I know theoretically, one of the things that could help pump it to that is if the Ethereum ETS go live. That is a very bullish news event, in my personal opinion, and I could see that as a trigger that might help cause that case to happen. What sort of percentage do you give to this scenario?
So if this is a local wave 1 impulse, your $80,000. So the 1236 extension here is about $82,000. Now, if we do some fib ratios here, right, that wave 1 was about a 9% gain. Your wave 3 about a 21% gain. And so your wave 5, if wave 3 is going to be your most bullish leg of that impulse, is going to land somewhere between your between wave 1 and wave 3. So if we extend that all the way to the maximum, right? Again, we're making the assumption that wave 3 is your most bullish leg of the impulse. Then I see us topping out somewhere around this $76,500 region for Bitcoin, right? We're always going to make the assumption that wave 3 is your most bullish leg of the impulse unless proven otherwise, right? Because that's usually what it's going to do. That doesn't mean that wave 5 can't be the most bullish part of the impulse. That can certainly be a possibility, right? But as it stands, this move extending all the way up to the 1236 extension at $82,000, I don't think that's super likely. But again, we can be proven wrong. So if we keep the assumption that wave 3 is your most impulsive leg, then I would expect wave 5 to terminate at a height of about $76,500 for Bitcoin before finally getting rejected and heading down to its local wave 2. So certainly possible for 81,000 within this 60-day cycle. Unlikely, but possible.
Fair enough. I think I'm in the same camp with you. For the folks at home, the theory that we are talking about right now is based on Elliott wave theory, which is that your major movements to the upside have a 5-wave sequence, and your minor moves to the downside have a 3-wave sequence. We were talking about how we've already had a wave 1 off of the bottom. This most recent pump is our wave 3. And then we're more than likely in the last few days pump of a wave 5, which means that by the rules or by the theories or the loose rules of Elliott wave theory is that your wave 3 is typically going to be the longest and the biggest increase. Wave 5 has the ability to be very sharp, but it typically is not longer than your wave 3. So because we had such that long run up off the bottom after that first little impulse and then rebound, and then we had a small rebound within the last week up into the price that we are right now. What we're theorizing is that this means that we don't really have a whole lot more upside in this 60-day cycle per se. So at this point, we're going to try to cap out as much as we can. And then if the market's very healthy, in my personal opinion, I think what's going to happen is it'll top out and then it'll chop slightly downwards and sideways, mostly sideways though. And then we'll create that cycle low before we move into the next one.
Yeah, agreed. And hey, like I said, can 81,000 be a possibility? Absolutely
possible. It's absolutely possible.
If there's a healthy amount of volume coming in when we get those prices, right? Let's say we get to 71,000 or 74,000, and the volume candles are clocking in higher highs. Then yeah, that makes it a much larger possibility that wave 5 could get us up to that $82,000 area, right? If there is still no bearish divergence on the daily chart when we get up to those levels, then yeah, that makes it very possible. But you have to take a look at the momentum indicators, and you have to take a look at the volume coming in when we make those higher highs.
Yes, sir. Alrighty, Mr. Bean, I believe you have something to add. What do you got, brother?
Yes, I do. First thing I want to say is we are building incredible support for our next large increase and move up in the market. And look at what we're building for support in the 60s, which is so close to the all-time high of, the last 4-year cycle. That really shows that we're building a really solid foundation that at some point that's going to serve as great support as we move up into the higher echelon. What we've always said is that we needed pullbacks, and we needed to start create these levels of support and consolidation within the market. And we've really started to see that. And it's been a very strong, healthy pullback, as you mentioned, Zenith, and the consolidation and the strength that we're building here in the 60s is wild. Like you said, the difference right now is that we're having a lot of positive sentiment in the market. Launch of the ETFs, generally speaking, have been a sell the news event, at least in the short term. I'm not sure that's going to be the case this time with Ethereum, and we might get into that a little bit more later.
Yes, we will.
But so I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But I'll just say that 80,000 is possible, like you said, Jay, depending on how much money flows into this Ethereum ETF. And does that start to really, because what happens, right? Bitcoin's been really the only runner of the major coins this cycle. Ethereum isn't close to where we might expect it to be compared to a 70,000 Bitcoin price, right? We might expect Ethereum to have been at 4,500 by now. So does Ethereum start to catch up a little bit with this ETF coming? I don't know, but it's certainly a possibility. And if that is the case, then we could use that to springboard a little bit higher this 60-day cycle than we may have originally anticipated. Not only that, but we're seeing a lot of strong bullish momentum because of the presidency, because of the assassination attempt, because of a lot of these things that are creating positive sentiment in the market. I mean, look at what happened. I mean, everything was down in the world, right? Banks, hospitals, airlines, you name it. What wasn't down? What wasn't down? Ethereum, Bitcoin, they were still running perfectly. Okay, Hex, Pulse Chain. So it's just a unique time, and we're building sentiment very differently than we were at the start of this bull market. Remember when we started this bull market and everything in the news from politicians to media was so negative on crypto? Man, how much has changed in the last 6 months, even in the last 3 months. And so that positive sentiment could allow us to go a little higher, but we're still going to need another healthy pullback to continue to build this solid consolidation points.
Agreed, good sir. And
Yeah,
I
you're
have
muted.
one. Agreed, good sir. I have one final point before we move on to the other stuff, which is exactly what you talked about, Ethereum. So, Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, I have a screen share for you. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart. This is specifically on the weekly. One of the things that I've been tracking for a long time now is this downwards trend line from all the different market cycles in the past. So we had our 2017 top and we had our 2021 top. These are the highest points that Bitcoin got to those cycles. Again, when we were coming up after the last cycle, we were kind of following this trend line for a long time until we broke down here in May. And then since then, we've actually broken outside of this upwards trend line, and we have not been able to recover this downwards trend line. In my opinion, I think that it's very fine that we didn't really touch the top of the trend line, because if you also, depending on how you take your data from this wick here, it also lines up very nicely with these two highs that we had here locally. So in my personal opinion, I think that we've solidly broken through the upwards trajectory on Bitcoin dominance, and we're not going to see any more increased Bitcoin dominance from here, because it means it's time for other altcoins or other major L1 coins to have their day in the sun. So speaking of which, gentlemen, can anyone tell me what's happening on Tuesday?
The Ethereum.
Yeah. At least 5 are going to go live on Tuesday, right? I believe they're going to go live on the CBOE, the Chicago something options exchange. I forgot what the B stands for. Chicago Board Options Exchange, I think is the name. But yes, we have 5 expected to start trading on Tuesday of next week.
Absolutely. Yes. So the number 2 coin, Ethereum. We were talking about levels of support that have really been consolidated. Ethereum, in my personal opinion, is the one that has had the hardest consolidation of a support level. And that is right here at that 2850 level. It's not exact or precise, but every time this level has been respected to some degree. And it is held very, very solidly during a time when Bitcoin was continuing to make lower and lower cycle lows recently. Gentlemen, what do you guys think about this level of support? Does this make sense, or am I just drawing lines with strings in the newspaper clippings?
If I was going to make a singular analysis, if you zoom out a little bit, Z, the lower highs, but holding a specific horizontal level of resistance, that is what is called a bull flag. Right? You got lower highs on the price, but the lows have held a specific area of horizontal resistance. That is a classic definition of a bull flag. So if you zoom out a little bit, you're going to see that there you go. There's your flag right there. That's it.
Look at all those lines.
So what does the bull flag pattern mean for the uninitiated? Let's break it down for the folks at home.
Yes.
It means bullish continuation.
Fair enough. So what you can theoretically expect to happen is we might end up with, brush it up a little bit. We might end up bouncing between the downwards trend and this line of support until we get to a level in which we just break through towards the upside. That is traditionally what happens on this kind of pattern.
For the folks at home who have no idea what technical analysis and what bullish means and what bearish means, bullish generally means that there's more people buying than there are selling, which means that price generally goes up. So for those of us for those of you guys catching us on the replay, when these guys are saying bullish and they're saying bearish, they're saying green candles, they're saying red candles. Green candles means price go up. Red candles means price go down. Bullish means price go up. Bearish means price go down. When there's more people selling than there are buying, then we're bearish. When there's more people buying than there are selling, then we're bullish. It's kind of like the housing market, same thing. If there's everyone trying to buy the housing market, then nobody can, or if there's everyone trying to buy houses and no one can buy houses, then the price of houses goes up, and it's a bull market for houses. Same thing or opposite with the bearish market. If everyone is trying to sell the houses, then all of a sudden all of the housing market prices crash. So for those of you that don't know any of this like green and red candle stuff and all these squiggly lines and the predictions and things, this is basically all the intellectual math that is a whole bunch of pattern analysis that allows us to attempt to predict the future based on what has happened in the past. And none of this is financial advice. None of this is set in stone. This is all just kind of like us throwing spaghetti at the wall and judging based on campfire stories what we think has happened before will happen again. So take it with a grain of salt, and just this is a potential future that could come about. It's these bearish flags and these bullish flags and RSIs and all these little squiggly lines you guys see.
Agreed. So the reason I do want to focus in on Ethereum as our number 2 coin here, because this is our segue into the crypto events on the horizon. The Ethereum ETF launch coming up on Tuesday, allegedly, is a very important event because I do believe that this cycle is going to be the ETF cycle. We already saw the Bitcoin ETF cycle happen back in January. That is the most profitable ETF launch in mankind history, which means why not run it back and make even more money, or try to? So one of the theories I've heard posited is that we are going to start seeing diminishing returns with the ETFs, which is that obviously Bitcoin is the one with all the name recognition. It is the OG, the number 1, which makes sense that it's going to make the most money. Ethereum is a good number 2. It's a very good number 2. So it should also make some decent returns. Probably not as much as Bitcoin, because not as many people are going to be comfortable throwing their money into Bitcoin. But at the same time, we already have our 3rd ETF filed for Solana, which is starting to solidify itself as kind of that number 3 coin in the ecosystem right now. So the ETFs have shown that they can largely move markets well beyond expected norms, because we were not supposed to be at all-time highs at this point in the market. Where we are right now is a decent area, but at the same time, we are about $1,000 below the all-time high of the last cycle. So what is being shown is that traditional finance entering the market in this way can absolutely alter the demand curve to the upside. Keep in mind, the Bitcoin halving did happen back in April, so theoretically that supply curve is also going up as well. So now we have increased demand on top of the usual increased supply, which is pretty standard recipe for price go up. When it comes to Ethereum, I think we'd expect something similarly. Ethereum is not operating on the same principle as Bitcoin with the 4-year cycle and the halving effect, but at the same time, it does operate on similar principles when it comes to the demand side of the house. And I do believe we will see a vast increase in demand coming up.
Yep.
Yeah. And Z, it's a good point. And you mentioned that, and Jay, you guys were talking about the bull flag, right? That's been building here. Why are we potentially building a bull flag? Because people are, anticipating the ETF launch, and that could allow us to break out of this flag downwards consolidation much faster than maybe we would normally. So we could be breaking out of this bullish zone in the very near future. But again, I'm curious to see how much money comes into ETF. I do agree that it's going to be a bit diminishing returns because it's not Bitcoin. But nonetheless, I think this is really going to kickstart Ethereum, which is good for all of us holding Ethereum and good for people holding other alts that are somewhat connected to Ethereum.
Yeah,
Definitely agree.
I don't think it would be unreasonable to believe that the Ethereum ETF launch would become the second most profitable ETF launch of all time either, right? I
It's
think
very
that,
much in the realm of possibility.
yeah, I think that is certainly possible. We went over this a few weeks ago, but Bitcoin and, of course, Ethereum, the amount of Ethereum left on exchanges is at an all-time low. What you're going to realize is most of the Ethereum being held by people are either in cold storage, in their hot wallets, or are actually being staked, accumulating yield. Another bullish thing for Ethereum is that once these ETFs go live and you get a lot of usage of the Ethereum network, well, that basically kicks in one of the most bullish aspects of Ethereum transitioning from proof of work to proof of stake, right? What do we know about Ethereum? Well, it kind of builds on the sound money principle of Bitcoin in that it's ultra sound money, right? Bitcoin is sound money because there's a finite amount of supply and there's only ever going to be 21 million tokens ever to exist, right? But Ethereum, building on the ultrasound money principles, is that not only is it going is it going to have a supply that's deflationary eventually, right? Because as more people use the network, what's going to happen is more of the supply is going to be burnt, right? So at a certain point, Bitcoin, although there's a cap, it's not going to be deflationary. Ethereum, on the other hand, as time goes on, right, the supply, theoretically, if people use the network to a significant degree, that is going to cut down on the supply of Ethereum because a lot of that is going to be burned as fees. And so that's something that Ethereum has in its like one of the bullets in its chamber. That could give it significant bullish momentum to the upside, right? Once the deflationary aspect of Ethereum kicks in again, then that's only going to be more price positive momentum.
Agreed. So one thing to keep in mind when it comes to the Ethereum stuff right now is that we are not at all-time highs for Ethereum. In fact, we're well below it by a good degree. I mean, we have pumped significantly off the bottoms, but we are still about $1,000 short of the all-time high at about 48.50. Because right now we're sitting at about 35.50, and we're coming up, and it would be reasonable to believe that without the ETFs, there might be a normal pattern occurring to coming up to that 38.50 mark. Bitcoin has made all-time highs, and I do believe it is right to connect dots 1 and 2, which is that Bitcoin ETF happens, Bitcoin goes to all-time high. So is it not unreasonable to think that if Ethereum gets the ETF, Ethereum hits a new all-time high? Is that too crazy?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I want to give you guys a little a quick little number here. I just googled how much Ethereum is liquid on exchanges right now, and this is per June 3rd of 2024. So a little over a month and a half old, but there's about 10% of
Yep,
Ethereum
that's-
circulating on exchanges.
That's
what we're looking at right now.
It's 10%. Yep.
Will,
So-
can you keep going on that? Why is that significant? If only 10% of the Ethereum is on exchanges, how much of that needs to be bought or sold to affect the price of all Ethereum?
Oh man, so if you take into account Metcalfe's law, which is the law that basically states that in peanut brain terms, every time the number of people entering a network doubles, then the value of the network squares. So if you have 10 people in a network and then another 10 people join, then the value of the network goes from 10 to 100, right?
Yep.
So if we just say that half of the Ethereum on these exchanges is bought, so 5% of the total circulating supply, whatever that number is, if half of the amount of the Ethereum in exchanges is bought, then that means that the price increases by a 4x, something like that. And that's just like the general idea. So if there's only 10%, if there's only 10% in supply, then and 5% is bought, and then we get a 4x in the price, that brings us like way past the all-time high. Right now, the all-time high I think is just under 5,000, something like that. It was like 4,900 or
About
something.
4850.
4850. Okay, yeah, if memory serves. So like it's not a lot of Ethereum that's out there like liquid on the market. I don't know actually what the circulating supply is of Ethereum right now. I'm going to Google that right quick. But yeah, the point is like there's a pretty low amount of Ethereum on like all of the exchanges, and this is like not just centralized exchanges, not just like Coinbase and Binance and Kraken. This is including decentralized exchanges, which is basically just a liquidity pool, which is just like a place where a whole bunch of individual people decide like, hey, I'm going to put my money on here, and other people can buy it if they want to in exchange for their dollars or in exchange for their Bitcoin or exchange for their whatever the hell, right? So this is like all of the exchanges combined. I don't even know how much is on the centralized exchanges. I could probably pull those up here pretty quick, but yeah,
we don't even have to have the specific data, but you are entirely correct, which is that we've gotten to the point in the market and we've observed it on-chain data, which is that the amount of tokens actually held on the centralized exchanges is decreasing and is almost approaching the lows for this cycle, this 4-year cycle, which means that we're getting to the point where liquidity is starting to dry up pretty heavily because people are holding coins instead of staking them. So what that means is that because we only have to affect the price of the liquidity pools instead of the entirety of the market cap, that is how you can really get that exponential increase in price, or theoretically exponential decrease in price if it goes the opposite direction. But we're not going to see that until the top of the market. Right now, we are still very much in the bull market, in my opinion, and everything with Ethereum is lining up, and it's one of the reasons I brought up the Bitcoin dominance chart earlier, which is that Bitcoin did make the all-time highs off the pump of the ETFs. Ethereum is about to have, theoretically, if we're correct here, Ethereum is going to have that pump too, which means that the Bitcoin dominance chart takes a nosedive and goes down, showing that the rest of the market is catching up with value inserted into those networks and those tokens.
I've got one more quick little fun fact full of numbers right now. There's 120 million Ethereum coins in circulation, and there is currently so ever since Ethereum switched to ETH 2.0, when they've introduced staking and they allow for the burning of ETH and transactions and stuff, a total of 4.5 million Ethereum has been burned. So Ethereum is not only like printing, but it's also being burned whenever people like pay for gas transactions and do the other thing. I'm not exactly sure how ETH is burned, like what the process is, but 120 million are like in existence. And ever since like, what was it, 2 years ago that Ethereum 2.0 was introduced, 5 million tokens have been burned, 5 million coins have been burned. Like that's pretty significant. So Ethereum, it has a theoretically infinite possibility, but the speed at which people buy versus people sell, the amount that's burned versus the amount that's created, like generally Ethereum over the past has been semi-deflationary. It's only increased by damn, 1 year ago it was 120. Like it's so insignificantly different between 1 year and now, like the amount of Ethereum that has been increased, like it's basically deflationary. So
people make a very big deal. We spoke about this a few times when, because it happened this year, right?
Mhm.
Ethereum becoming inflationary again after the merge happens at very obvious times in the market, right? Obvious times meaning during sideways and down movements, right? It's probably going to happen again when? During a bear market, right? But as Will pointed out, the amount of Ethereum being created when it becomes inflationary, right, is so insignificant. Remember, all of Ethereum's supply is already out. All of the only new Ethereum being created is from people staking their Ethereum. That's it. So what the hell do you think happens when, like Will mentioned, right, you double the amount of usage that the Ethereum network currently has? All right. No matter what anybody says in this space, people are building on Ethereum. Ethereum has the significant amount of market share of people building on it. Doesn't matter if you think the other protocols are better, people are going to Ethereum. And if Ethereum like basically keeps the number one position of where people are going to build, that is only going to increase the amount of Ethereum burned because of the usage, right? So it's only price positive for the it's only positive for the price. So yeah, whenever Ethereum transitions to these moments of time where it's like inflationary again, like that's just people like farming for clicks, bro. It's not that big of a deal.
I have a question for you guys. Since this is a Q3 thesis, and I think this is an important one. If the bags of, say, Fidelity and ARC and 21 shares aren't packed for Ethereum, they're going to want to buy at lower prices, right? So could we see a sell the news event in order for them to buy at lower prices as ETF launches? Because I feel like that's why BTC crashed a little bit or dipped a little bit on the ETF launch. Could we see that happen? I know we're saying maybe we don't see a dip this time because of how successful the Bitcoin ETF launch was, but could there be a scenario where we see a sell-off so that the institutions can buy at lower prices?
Jay, do you want me to take this one or you got it?
Go ahead. I'll add on after you go. I've been talking too much.
So I think this is a twofold question, which is that the first part is looking back at the Bitcoin ETF launch. Obviously, we had a local high of the Bitcoin price go to about $48,000, and then it crashed to about $38,000 over the course of 2 weeks. And then after that, we had the massive run up to the point where we are now. So why would the Ethereum ETF not do the same thing? And I argue the reason it's not going to do the same thing is because the large forces at play are not the same, which is that the starting point is not the same. Bitcoin ETFs have been in the works for well over a year before they actually got approved. During that time, there's even one person who was well ahead of the market, and that is Grayscale. Grayscale had been trying to convert their fund to a spot Bitcoin ETF for about 2 years. They got held up in the courts fighting the SEC. They even took it to an appeals court and won. And then after that, that was allegedly the final straw that broke the camel's back, which forced the Bitcoin ETFs to launch. So what that did is it created an opportunity over the course of 2 years for people to buy into the Grayscale ETF for a long time, which at the same time was also Bitcoin bear market lows. So people got in, with a Grayscale discount and Bitcoin all-time lows, meaning they bought in at a very low price. The Ethereum, the Bitcoin ETF hype happened all the way up till that 48,000 point where it got approved. At that point, you can actually go check the inflows and outflows. While all the other ETFs were buying up Bitcoin like crazy, there was one ETF in particular where people were selling like crazy. Can you guess which one it was? Grayscale. There you go.
Yeah,
early cats.
If you take a look at the outflows for the ETFs in general, almost all of it is from Grayscale. The overwhelming majority of it, even till now, is from Grayscale.
Absolutely, 100%. The reason that is the case is because no one really knows where price is going to go. We obviously have the Bitcoin 4-year cycle that we operate off of, but the average person might not. So they might just invest in the ETF, be like, oh, sure, it's a good thing. It's Bitcoin, whatever. Yeah. And then they see it go up. They got in a good price. They're like, cool, might as well take some profits. Taking profits, aka selling. So that is, in my personal opinion, why we saw that. I think the data supports it as much. What we are not seeing right now with Ethereum ETFs is that there's no such case. Nothing really exists. No one's been trying to convert Ethereum to an ETF for 2+ years and fighting the SEC tooth and nail over it. We saw the greatest money-making event in history previously, and now we're trying to replicate it right about 6 months later, actually. Look at that. So the timeline is very different, and the starting points are very different. So in my personal opinion, I don't think we're going to see as much of a dip on the Ethereum launch. But at the same time, like you said, do institutions want to buy low? Absolutely. However, I don't know if the market's going to sell that much and drop the price that much.
Yep. I agree. To add a few things. Number one, the timeline of release for the Bitcoin ETFs, right? That the few days surrounding it had a lot of shenanigans going on with Twitter, the SEC's X account being hacked, talking about how it's released. Oh no, we got hacked. It's actually not going live. So there were a lot of people who wrote the news up. The news came down. They sold off, right? So there were a lot of nonsense surrounding the Bitcoin ETFs release that contributed to the sell-off that we saw. That's not the case with Ethereum, right? Because we now have precedent, and the fact of the matter is, if the SEC denied the Ethereum ETFs, they would have been taken to court. They would have lost because they would not have been able to come up with a plausible argument as to why they would deny Ethereum the way that they denied Bitcoin that would hold up in court, right? So there's that. Also, the ETFs have not gone live yet in terms of trading, right? And so really, if you take a look at what happened with the charts, right? When the Ethereum ETFs were announced, we ran up to 4,000. We retraced back down. So technically, you already kind of had that sell the news event happen for Ethereum, right? There's already been a significant amount of time between the announcement of the ETFs being approved, right? There's that lag time already that's been created to when they're going to start trading, right? And so you also take that into consideration. I don't think that we are going to get the same type of selling when these ETFs go live the same way that we got for Bitcoin, right? And Z put it perfectly. There is no massive discount that existed for Ethereum the way that it did for the Bitcoin, the grayscale Bitcoin did, right? So no, I don't think we're going to see that kind of significant profit taking, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think you guys make great points. And the reason that I asked the question is because I wanted the audience to see why we believe this, because it's not just, hey, we think this. No, we actually have some valid thought process and thesis that we have been thinking about for a while. And this isn't just, a thought or opinion. Look, we could be wrong, of course, right? You don't know exactly how the market's going to react, but you have to do your best to make the best decision possible. And then if things change, then we adjust our thesis. But I think it's really important to note that this is why we think the Ethereum launch is different than Bitcoin. And I'll add one other thing, sentiment. The sentiment of the market right now is very different than the sentiment of the market was at the time of Bitcoin launch. The SEC was suing a lot of people, but they hadn't taken as many L's yet. Since then, we've started to see the SEC lose in court, get berated by judges, lose confidence of the people. And then we're starting to see senators, we're starting to see bipartisan pro-crypto bills being passed and then vetoed by our insanely, now we know, mentally not stable and mentally not fit potentially to be president. Since he can't run for president again, he can't be fit to be our president currently. At least I don't think so. But nonetheless, my point is sentiment has changed a lot in those 6 months from the Bitcoin ETF. And I think that also plays a big role in this Ethereum ETF launch.
Agreed. I don't think we're really covering anything groundbreaking here, but I think the point of what we're doing is we're synthesizing, which is that we're taking all the data points together and trying to weave the tapestry and see where the data points align, where they don't, and where there are anomalies. And I think largely everything is pretty much lining pretty much together, which is Bitcoin went to all-time highs, dominance chart tops out, Ethereum gets very bullish news, has the potential to maybe start running itself, furthering the idea that Bitcoin was the darling of the ball for the first bit of the bull market. Now it's the time for everything else. Obviously, Bitcoin is still going to lead the market largely when it comes to the 4-year cycle, because that's just how it works. But at the same time, all the macro news events are lining up to kind of support this theory that we're proposing here. And that is the point. So outside of that, I do have a few other crypto projects I do want to mention that might have some very important dates for Q3. And Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, we're going to start off with what I think is a rather large one, which is ASI, or the Fetch token. This is one of the biggest gainers in the AI token space right now, and they're in the middle of their merger, which happened at the beginning of July. That was for the other 2 tokens in the portfolio, which was AGIX and the Ocean token. Those have been converted into Fetch, and you can do so right now, continuing to do so. What we're waiting on for the rest of this quarter is step 2 of the phase right now, which is the ASI deployment. What this is going to be, this is when the Fetch token gets converted to ASI. So right now, we're consolidating out of the 3 coins into one of the coins, which is going to be Fetch, and then at some point in the near future, Fetch is going to be the one that turns into ASI. So outside of that, that is one of the major projects going on right now. I think AI tokens is one of the major narratives for this cycle. It might not be the dominant one, but I think it's going to be a player this cycle, and I definitely think it's going to be a player next cycle. What do you guys think about AI tokens?
I think AI tokens are going to once again enter the zeitgeist of the space, to be quite honest with you. Fetch, Render, all of those different AI protocols, Palm AI. I think they're going to make their runs for sure. It's especially since it's like a cycle 1 narrative, right? We had a little bit of a taste back in back in the last cycle, but really most of the AI projects, this is they're basically their first like true blue bull market. And so yeah, I think a lot of these tokens, even though some of them have already kind of run pretty hard, like cycle 1 tokens have a characteristic of blowing people's minds out of the water. So yeah, I think these things are going to do very well. I think gaming is going to do well. I think AI is going to do well. And then eventually I think that's going to trickle down into real world assets and the like. So
yeah, it's, I'm a big fan of Palm AI. And actually on Friday, I misspoke on Fun with Friends. I said Fetch doubled in 7 days. It was actually Palm AI. If you had bought it 30 cents.
Did we lose him? Did we get run?
I think
yeah,
Brendan.
I think we lost him.
Oh, bummer.
But yes, to add on to what Bean was saying, him and I are fairly bullish on Palm. There is Pal and there's Palm, so don't confuse those two. Yeah, it went from like 30 to it's hovering around 60 cents now, so a double within like a week or so. So it's definitely one of the bigger gainers from the bottom of this retracement. Yep, that's the one right there.
Okay. Yeah, most recently went from about 25 cents all the way up to about 61, 62 cents. That's a good move.
Yep.
Looks like all-time high sitting back here in March of 2024, aka when Bitcoin had its all-time high at about $1.80.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So definitely bullish on the AI space as a whole. Like if you're looking for like some of the biggest gainers in the space outside of meme coins, it's probably going to exist in either GameFi or AI.
Fair enough. I just wanted to highlight that one of the largest AI tokens is having a major event in the near future that is happening this quarter. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Outside of that, we have another token that we've probably talked about a handful of times that also has a macro event coming up, and that is Illuvium, because their official game launch is July 25th, which is 2 days after Ethereum ETF launch. And guess what? Illuvium is an Ethereum-based token. So I think you might get some excellent effect on this one, considering it has had quite the retracement on their price during the last drop in the market. So they might be primed for a good pump here coming up, especially if they have excellent launch. And their game has been beta tested for about like 2, 3, 4 months now to a large audience, and it's been closed beta tested for over a year at this point. So I have no doubt that Illuvium is going to be a smash hit coming up here shortly. And previously it topped out here at about almost $2,000, and right now we're sitting at about $75. So there's potential upside on this one for sure, in my opinion. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
they were just featured on IGN. So one of the biggest traditional
Ooh.
gaming platforms. Yeah, they were featured on IGN. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what kind of revenue that Illuvium brings in. But I think, look, as much as traditional gamers do not want to admit it, the future is like blockchain based gaming, right? I mentioned this a few streams ago, but let's see it. Let's see it. You want to see the trailer?
We can play a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Illuvium was always more than a dream. It was our calling.
The game does look fantastic. Like, this is AAA caliber.
If only they knew the truth.
Scans indicate a dead planet. But I can feel
It looks like Sea of Thieves.
This is Illuvium.
Find me, child,
Activate scouting vessel.
and show our people who you truly are.
She won't decide our fate.
Forgot to charge again, huh? He only just landed.
Will you retreat to safety? Chasing paradise? Or will you follow me and fulfill your purpose?
We'll find her soon. There's no way off this island.
All we do is blindly follow orders. I need to know how this ends.
I hope that came well through on your guys' end, because it was it was very graphically intensive on mine.
Bro, every single time I've seen that trailer, it has not failed to give me goosebumps, bro. Like,
It's killer.
Ranger reminds me of Samus, so I'm like, man, I hope they come out with a Samus skin, bro, because that'd be so damn awesome.
Yeah, here we are. IGN website right here. Got a whole thing for Illuvium.
Yep.
So
I was very, very interested to see exactly the kind of revenue that they bring in, and we'll see if they can make a run in the creature capture space, man, because I'm confident that they will. You know, one of the great things about this particular game is during the entire time that they were like beta testing, alpha testing this game, the developers have listened to every single criticism that the testers have provided them. And they made basically every single change that the community recommended for the better. And I guarantee you the final product that they're going to release is like head and like heels above, like over, like head and shoulders above what the original game was when it was like in the beta testing phase. So like can't be more excited for Illuvium.
I have high hopes. I think it's going to be fantastic, and all signs, in my opinion, indicate that this should be a very successful launch. Price dependent. Outside of that, I think the game itself is going to be, it's going to be good. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for with this next wave of GameFi projects, is instead of just play to earn games that might be Skinner boxes or just kind of like Farmville variants, looking for actual games that just have a crypto or a Web3 project attached on the back end that is less intrusive but does exist. I think it's going to be big.
Another thing with Illuvium is, I don't know if you said this, sorry, my internet rugged. Storm's going on around me, so I don't know if that's the case or not, but thankfully I'm back up. There's a lot of money being put into Illuvium as well. Like, look at the tournaments that have happened and how large the purses are. I mean, that's pretty telling in my opinion. And I know a lot of people are upset because they were bought Illuvium at 100 when they thought it was going to 200 and 300. It pulled back to 50. But look, if you believe in a project, we're holding long term, right? We're holding for this bull market. So don't get worried if you bought at 100 when you and you could have doubled your coins at 50. Sure, we've all bought when we could have doubled our coins months later. But nonetheless, I loved that was my first time seeing that first original trailer. That was beautiful. And that's one of the things that I like about Illuvium. It's a beautiful game. I think they have a lot of really good developers, and they're building a really solid project. So a lot of times this cycle, it's been memes. It's not really been coins that have a utility that have been pumping through the roof. But I think that changes in the second half of this bull market. And I don't know if that's going to be Q3 per se, and this Q3 Thesis show, but I'm still very bullish on projects like this and Palm AI, as I mentioned before. So.
And hey, the tier 5 lands have not gone on sale yet, man.
That's true. The land sales are always a very profitable event, considering there's a few reasons why. The first off is that it's an exclusive thing that is limited, so there is exclusivity. On top of that, when it comes to the gameplay aspects, you are rewarded for having plots of land that are next to each other. So theoretically, I don't know, if you acquired one of the plots of land next to someone trying to aggregate a lot of them, and you might just become a real thorn in that person's side, in which case you might be able to cut a deal, so to speak. Make an offer you can't refuse.
You guys want to make some money?
There we go. Now we're talking.
I would be holding on to those lands.
Yeah,
I would be holding on to them. Yeah.
Think about it this way, right? Think about you own a house and they want to develop the land around you to build a big tower. Well, guess what? You have to sell your house if they want to build that tower. And so they might have to make you offers you can't refuse. It's the same thing in Illuvium. And also, NFTs, people need those to play the game. You get benefits from those too. So there's another thing I like about Illuvium is there's a lot of aspects to it. It's not just like, hey, I have a coin and it's play to win. Oh no, you have land. Oh, you have avatars. Oh, you have NFTs. Oh, you can grind your lands to make them more valuable. There's a lot of things there. And look, I don't play Illuvium. I just own some, and I own some NFTs. But I'm bullish on the project, and I know people that have been bullish for a long time. We'll see what happens.
For sure. Other than that, the only other project that I had on my notes for this quarter potentially is Phantom and the potential launch of the Sonic Network. No official date has been given as far as I can find, but it is in the near future. It has been voted upon, so the decision is in. We're just waiting on the launch. So
and Fire Dancer, man.
Fire Dancer too. Yeah.
We'll see, man. There's a lot of haters gonna be big mad when when Solana doesn't fail. How hilarious would it have been if Solana went down when all of the nonsense was happening with the I forgot what that company was, bro, but my God. Oh.
For sure. All right, gentlemen. Any last notes for crypto markets of note before we move into the macroeconomics portion?
I want to take a quick moment to say for the folks at home, if you guys want to learn how to make a movie trailer, I dropped a link in the chat below, which will take you back to our DGen Roundtable community Telegram, which you guys can join and hang out and have fun. I put it in the meme channels page since we were talking about trailers, I thought I would drop a link in there. For those of you that don't know how to make a movie trailer, check out that link right on over that way. It's super fun, super awesome. Join our DRT community, and let's hop right on into the next topic whenever you guys are ready.
True. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, I don't think that I have a lot of hope for this in Q3 per se, but Cardano has some upgrades coming as well. So we'll see how that goes with the Chang hard fork and some other things going on. So
just because we're not covering anything on here doesn't mean nothing is happening in those spaces. Granted, it's just that there's a lot of other stuff that might be a little bit bigger and we think is going to have more impact on the market, which is why we're talking about it now. But everyone is still working behind the scenes very aggressively, and there's still a lot of stuff to come. Shoot, even the Ethereum Foundation itself is still working on trying to get those gas fees better, but until they actually figure out another upgrade, we're going to hold off on talking about that.
Yeah, Z, my only point was we'll see if with that upgrade that's supposed to hit this month, it might hit any time now for Cardano, see if that has any price movement. So that's just something that people should keep an eye out for.
Fair enough. That's true. I know a lot of us around here, we're not like huge Cardano investors, but we do have some love for the Cardano folks out there. We had a great time at the Cardano conference last year, And if things work out, we might be able to hang out with them again shortly this year, unless all the Richard Hart stuff just really takes over. Because right now, I think we are booked for New York 2024 in October. Other than that, all right, Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, and Will, good sir, do a little halftime show for the chat shoutouts.
Ladies
There
and
it
gentlemen,
is.
boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, it's time for chat motherfucking shoutouts, baby. Let's fucking hit it.
True. The chats have been racking up, so I want to cover these before we just have like a million at the end of the stream. All right, first up and first most, we have the #1 cheerleader in the entire crypto space. That is Tam Tam. She says, "What's up, fam? Great to see you, Tam. Great to have you here. Hopefully, we're providing excellent entertainment and value to everyone out there." Up next, we have good friend of the channel and the book club, Sam Stevenson. He says, "Like the video, if you don't mind. Like, don't want to beg for it too much, but like, come on.
Do it. Don't be scared."
Exactly. Sure. Speaking of friends of the channel, we got Mood Pilled Rational Objects. He says, "What's up, D-Gens? Good to see you, my man. Glad to have you as always." And another good friend, US Crypto Boogie. Shout out to him. He's been covering a lot of the Phantom stuff. He is a big Phantom dude. He knows all the cool tricks, all the hot projects, all the exciting things going on Phantom. So if you want any of that sauce, you got to go check out his channel. It is US Crypto Boogie on YouTube. And I even think he's on Rumble. So check him out everywhere, baby. Up next, we got M Rock Jockey, or Mr. Rock Jockey, however you say it. He says, "Hello," and a thumbs up. Hello and thumbs up to you, good sir. Up next, we got Ramon Carrillo. Says, "Sup, fam? Good to see you, my man. Welcome back." And we have longtime favorite, Funkmaster Hex. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening, sir. I'm already out of that. We might be thirsty the rest of the stream, but hopefully you are not. Keep those glasses topped up at home, folks. Last but not least, we do have a question. Do any of you legends know anything about the Oracle situation on Pulse Chain? I do not, so I'll kick it over to anyone who does.
I do not. It's the first I've heard of it.
All right, we'll put it on the research list, and then we'll get back to you at a later date. How's that sound?
I'm fairly certain that I could be wrong, but I think that Liquid Loans was doing some sort of Oracle thing. I don't remember exactly if that's exactly what he's talking about, but I know that was in the talks a long time ago. Don't know if it's come out yet or what's going on with it, but if there was someone to follow, it would be either I think CC or Walrus. They might have some information on that. So if you guys go check out the Liquid Loans folks, I know that they wanted to make some sort of Oracle service for Pulse Chain. So I don't know where it went, or like last we spoke to them like about their project and all that stuff was our deep dive, which we did, oh man, I don't know, back in October, something like that maybe. So no idea, but those would be the place to go if you want a Oracle on Pulse Chain, as far as I'm aware.
True. Alrighty, let's hit the macroeconomic stuff. We were going to try to go a little bit faster through this because we're already a good bit into the show, but this is still going to be great value nonetheless. So, Mrs. Producer, I have a screen share for you if you do not mind. By the way, thank you very much. I know this is a very technically intensive episode, but we appreciate you. You are killing it, by the way. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I have for you the classic U.S. inflation rate year over year. You'll see right now with the last one we had in June, we are sitting at about 3%, which was down. It is not a new low in the recent cycle, but it is very much down. So with that being said, we do have a few macro events coming up in the near future. First up, we have at the end of this month, July 31st, we have the Federal Reserve with the FOMC meeting. After that, we have on August 14th, additional inflation data coming in. And then we have a full month before we get to the next inflation data. And then following that, we have the final Federal Reserve meeting for the month of September at September 18th. So before the end of this quarter, we're going to get 2 more inflation datas and we're going to get 2 more Fed meetings. Those are both important because they factor into each other, and the inflation rate, which we are showing right now, is one of the things that factors into that decision very, very heavily. The other is going to be the unemployment rate, which has creeped up to about 4.1%, which started off at about 3.5% before 2024. But yeah, we've creeped up to about 4.1%. It's a very steady increase. At the same time, the Federal Reserve says that their mandate is to have stable prices and reduce inflation and keep it at the target 2% rate. But the magical third factor that the Federal Reserve talks about is the unemployment rate. So unless if unemployment gets too high, that could trigger a rate cut, or if they also continue to get good inflation data, that could also trigger a rate cut, which we're seeing right now, by the way. Gentlemen, I'm going to pull up a screen share for the FedWatch tool, but you guys, what do you guys think? Inflation, do you think we're on the right track, or do you think there's potential to go back up? What are you seeing out in the markets?
Well, let me ask you this, Zenith. You said something. If unemployment gets too high, in your opinion, what is too high currently for the Fed? Previously, I'd say it was in the 5 to 6% range. I'm not sure they're looking at that high right now.
I have heard the magic number of about 4.2% floated in the past, but we're rapidly approaching that. I think that based on everything Jerome Powell was saying earlier this month when he had to go before Congress, both the House and the Senate, for his semi-annual address on monetary policy, he was happy about what he's seeing in the market when it comes to inflation data. Unemployment data, it's slightly concerning, but inflation has largely been the driving factor for everything going on, which is that, we're over 10% inflation for about 6 months there, which was real crazy. And since then, it's been a battle to bring it down. We had a local low at 3% before we jumped back up to 3.7%. And now we finally got back down to 3.0% after about 6-7 months. So I think they're happy about inflation. Unemployment has not skyrocketed, so that's not a bad thing. 5% would start to be towards those concerning numbers. 4%, it's realistically in a healthy economic situation. But again, that number is also determined based on how you measure it, which the people measuring it are also the ones in charge of determining what the measurement is. So it's slightly biased there, and they are the ones determining the rules. So not too tinfoil hat, but at the same time, take it with a grain of salt.
One more question. What do you think about the wage increases? Does that have any effect on the market? Because obviously unemployment is supposed to have, a negative effect on people spending, right? Because they don't have jobs. But at the same time, if everybody else is increasing their wages by 4 or 5%, is that something that they're going to factor in?
So wage growth is, in my personal opinion, a factor of GDP growth, which is you can continue to pay people more if the labor is worth more. But if in regards to the labor as it is available in the market, if it's stagnant or going down, as which we kind of saw during all the COVID stuff, which is that the availability of workers dropped drastically. Therefore, the unemployment rose, and the wage that some people are willing to pay for people not doing certain things, like, come into an office or be physically present on a job site, that actually requires it. Those are reasons for stagnant wage growth, but in a competitive market, theoretically, you should be headhunting for the best talent possible, which would lead to a slight up and to the right trajectory for wage growth. I don't know if we've seen that lately. We might have seen slightly up and to the right growth from an absolute number, but when you adjust it for inflation, wages have been kind of stagnant over the last 3-4 years.
Well, inflation's been really high, so it's hard to not be stagnant when you're 4 to 10% inflation.
Well said. That is an excellent point. Alrighty.
Yeah, I'll say at least in my industry, there's a lot of job openings, and it's pretty competitive. I mean, they're increasing how much they want to pay. That's something that's interesting to me. That there are positions that aren't being filled because they're not paying enough, and therefore they're starting to now increase how much they're asking or offering to people. Now, it's one industry, right? Big deal. I work in a very small percentage of industry, but it's still something that's notable to me. Take it away. Watch tool.
Yeah, for sure. Final note on what we were talking about, though, is that is wage growth technically going up? Yes. However, the issue right now is everything else is just going up faster and higher. When it comes to inflation, cost of living, and all your random expenses, they are unfortunately higher than your wages increasing. So that's kind of what we're seeing. As far as what we have on the screen right now, this is our favorite FedWatch tool from the CME group. This is talking about the Federal Reserve meetings. So right now, the inflation rates are between 5.25% and 5.5%. One of the things that we've been tracking this entire year, and you're probably sick of us talking about it, but it might finally be happening, is that I know we were talking about 3 rate drops for 2024 back at the end of 2023, but here we are almost at the end of July, and we still haven't had a single rate drop. and the rates have stayed very high for, well, not very high. This is actually pretty average to slightly low in my personal opinion. But we have not seen a rate drop this entire year. And for the month of July 31st, which was I'm showing right now, this is based on the futures market and the data that they collect. There is a 95% chance that there is not going to be a rate cut. It is only until you get to September in which there's a 91% chance that there will be a rate cut. So, would I be surprised if there was a rate cut in July based on Jerome Powell's sentiment at his testimonies before Congress? No, I wouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, I'm not going to hold my breath on it. I do think that September is that magic date for when we're most likely to see it. And I think the market agrees with that sentiment. At the same time, though, there are about 5% of people that would like to see it drop twice or drop a 0.5 percentage point instead of a 1/4 percentage point.
Not
Gentlemen,
happening.
Not happening.
Not happening. I mean, look, I want to take a little bit of a victory lap. The first people that told you we weren't getting rate cuts until September was a DGen Roundtable over 6 months ago. Okay. We've been hopping on this far before anybody else mentioned it. When this Fed Watch tool had 3 cuts set in, we were saying max 1 cut this year. I know I said that, Zenith. I know you agreed with me at times. I know, Jay, we've talked about it. There were times when this had 95% chance rate of a rate cut in March, right? And then no rate cuts. And then, nope, we're definitely not going to have a rate cut because we're starting to see interest rates go back up. So I feel like we've nailed this. And I said for a while that it's going to be 1 rate cut or 0 rate cuts. Look, we could still see a punch back up in inflation, right? That's still a possibility. I don't think we're out of the woods in what's happening here in the economic markets. So if that were to happen, yeah, how can we cut in September, right? Unless, like you said, we start to see unemployment get to that 5+% range, then it's like, okay, what's more important now? The unemployment rates or the inflation rates, and how do we balance that? But generally speaking, no, I think that we've been really on top of this far more accurately than anybody in the TradFi media, anybody in the TradFi economics circle, and Fed Watch tool itself. So I just want to say that.
Yeah,
For sure.
To add one last
Jay.
thing to this conversation, one of the reasons why the market got so bullish this week was when Powell spoke earlier this week at the the Economic Club of Washington, I believe is what it's called. And he said that the central bank is probably not going to wait until 2% for them to cut rates, right? Because as you guys know, he always says that the Fed operates on, like, what's his exact wording? He says that they operate on, give me 1 second here. His exact wording is
Communism?
he says that he says that the Fed operates on long and variable lag. So I interpreted that as to mean because they're getting inflation data that's basically 1 month behind, right? Like when the Federal Reserve is going to meet at the end of July, they're getting the inflation numbers for June, right? So they operate on this long and variable lag thesis. And so if consecutive inflation number prints, Jerome Powell is seeing that it's going down, and then he's also seeing that the job market is softening, like we spoke about earlier, then that's probably the reason why he said they're not going to wait until 2% before they start cutting rates, because that 2% is going to lag behind every single FOMC meeting, right? So the FOMC meeting that they get 2%, they probably would have already started to cut rates.
Yeah, agreed. If you think about it, operating on data that is a month old at best a month old for your Federal Reserve decisions, that is that lag time. And again, the economy doesn't move entirely just instantaneously. There's some sectors that are able to do so, like crypto or maybe some larger like options trading or futures markets. But in general, people have to plan things out for a long time and try to adjust as they can. On a macro scale, the market as a whole is not going to correct instantaneously unless it's like some sort of black swan event. So the stuff we're seeing right now, it looks like people are adjusting as fast as they can, and especially people taking in data. But at the same time, understand there is going to be some lag, and I think you see as much in the decision making and in the markets itself.
Yeah. And also
So-
realize that a lot of other countries have already started to cut rates. So
Bingo. There you go.
Yep, that's something, Jay, that you do want to keep in mind, because as much as you think that you're on an island, the world doesn't work that way.
For true. So for the folks at home, if you're still staring at the rainbow on your screen, I'll try to break down this chart a little bit. At a glance,
it's like schnozberries.
At a glance, it might look like you smear the schnozberries on the windshield, but here we are. This does make sense if you understand what you're looking at. So this is the stacked area chart. Pretty much the probability of whatever the color is, the greater the area for the date. The date is an individual line that you can draw on this chart. But one of the things that you can see is that back in December and January of 2020, or December 2023, January 2024, people had a lot of thoughts about on which way the interest rate was going. So this blue area here, this is a very large area. People were thinking that for the September meeting, we would be somewhere between 4 and 4.25%, aka a whole point lower than we are right now.
Jesus.
And then as we get closer in the year, that blue area goes away completely.
Yep.
Then we can look at the orange area, which is above that, and that goes away completely back here in about April. The green area, the next area up from that, starts off at about February and then goes away completely in April. And are you seeing a trend here? Because I am.
Yeah.
And then you see the purple, which is 2 rate drops, which in April drops drastically when we have this giant wall in the red right here. This giant jump, that is the death of the purple zone. And then after that, it drops off precipitously. And now we are left with the massive red zone, which eats up the gray zone. The gray zone is the no drop zone, by the way. And back in January, no one was predicting that we would have 0 drops by September. But here we are. And they were predicting 0 drops until we got later into June and now July, in which case the gray area has dropped off precipitously, and now we are left pretty much with only the red area and a very, very small sliver of the purple area. So red, 1 rate drop, purple, 2 rate drops. So if you hit the purple, that would mean we'd have to drop either a half point in one decision or the usual quarter point decision in July and September. Right now, the probabilities show that the market is starting to come to the realization that we're probably only getting a quarter point drop in September.
And we've been saying that, and we've been saying this since January, for the record, December, January, that's not happening. We're not getting that many rate cuts. So we were far, far ahead of the curve. And look, we're not going to be right on everything, but we were very, very bullish on our thesis back then. If you look at our Q1 thesis, we mentioned it. If you look at all of our streams are saved on YouTube. You can go back and watch, but we've been saying this for a while. And we might get one. We might get 1 rate cut in September. I thought September, because it was before the election, that the current administration is always going to want good news going into an election. So surprise, surprise that you get a rate cut in September. I'm not putting, I might need a tinfoil hat here, Zenith.
I think I did put on the tinfoil hat when I made that projection back in January.
Yep.
But now it's just the average cynical projection.
Yeah.
But look, isn't it funny that we even said that?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Life imitates art, or so to speak.
History doesn't repeat itself, but it's damn close sometimes.
Yeah. It rhymes, definitely rhymes. All right, so let's try to extrapolate this 1 point further. So, what do the interest rates do? In my personal opinion, interest rates are an example of the time cost of money, which is that. Oh, sorry, Will, what you got, brother?
I was gonna say they go up. That's it.
Interest rates go up.
That's all I do.
They were going down over before we got into the modern era. Back in the old days of the COOF and the COVID and the lockdowns, they were damn near
those days
zero.
are irrelevant.
A little bit, yeah. But right now, the way that I look at the interest rates is you're either looking at the bond market, aka your returns on investment, or if you're a business owner, it is what is the cost of borrowing money. So if you're an investor, you want interest rates to be high. If you're a business owner, theoretically, you want rates to be low. So if we've had high rates for a while and we move towards lower rates from the business perspective, we could see an increase in business. Or for people that are consumers, interest rates might more closely be tied to home prices or the price that you pay for your home, your mortgage every month. which means that a drop in rates theoretically should incentivize people to purchase more real estate. We've been seeing a record low in real estate sales for this year, and the inventory is also rather low as well. And there's two ways to read that. One is no one wants to either take the loans, or two is looking back at the historical data, which Will says doesn't matter, but it does when you have that 3% interest rate locked in, and now you're looking at 7% interest rates for a home. It's kind of incentivizing you never to give that up, and you're not going anywhere. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the trap, right? If you try to buy a home now, you get a fixed interest rate, then I mean, unless you have, even if you have good credit, bro, like shit. One of my colleagues last year we were talking about, because he just bought a townhome here in Chandler, I believe the area was, and he's got like basically perfect credit score. He's a dental hygienist, right? I think he got a rate of like around 4.2%, bro. And that's with like perfect credit, man. Imagine if you're trying to apply for a loan and you had like shit, like let's say you had like below average credit. Like let's say you had like a 700 credit score, which is not terrible. It's not like the greatest credit score, but it's better than like being below there. You're probably getting anywhere between like a 5 to 6%, bro. So yeah.
Yeah, Jay, it also depends on who you buy from. You know, if he bought a new house that was from a track home builder, some of those guys have their own lending programs, and they actually can sell at a lower percentage because they're actually making money off the house. So sometimes people can get a lower percentage if they're buying new homes from a track home builder, again, because they own the sale and they own the lending platform. So there are some unique things out there that allow people to get lower rates, but that doesn't sound like one of them. I bet that's a house that's been just resold. Yeah,
and dude, like how bad it's like. Here's another thing I saw the other day. Like the repo market is going crazy because people just can't afford to make their monthly mortgages. Right? Can you imagine? Right now, the average home price here in Arizona is like $450,000 to $500,000 for a fucking starter home, bro. Like that's wild. Can you imagine? Can you imagine right now? People's salaries have not kept up with the rate of inflation across all of these like average cost of living goods and services, and so people are not going to be able to afford to buy a house in the near future, bro, because like their salary is just not going to be able to keep up. So
well, there's one other thing that's really impacting the housing market right now, and it's the increase in insurance premiums. Some states are increasing by 20-30%. In California, they're asking the state to allow them to increase rates by 30 to 50% coverage. And if they don't, they're saying they're going to pull out of the state altogether because the costs of operating in California and because of things like wildfires and things like that. But essentially, it's the cost of. Well, think about this: what's the minimum rate, minimum wage in California? Well, just went up really high. So now some of these companies there's a lot of factors is all I'm saying. But if you look at California, they're going to increase 50% on average. And if they don't, they're going to pull out and you can't even get coverage. So what is the government going to say? They're going to have to say yes, right? So interest rates are on top of the increases in price, on top of the interest rates and how much that increases your mortgage. You now have to pay 25% increase in insurance premiums, more in some states. So that's crazy. And it's all of these factors together that are playing a big role in the housing market. Now, let's also not forget that I wish that companies like BlackRock and institutional investors couldn't buy up properties because it would be a lot better for the average consumer. But that's just the reality. They're able to right now, and they have a bit more money than we do, and they're looking at future appreciation.
For true. So other than the reason I bring up this topic, other than Will's favorite thing to do, which is speculate on the price of tea in China.
That is my favorite.
It is. I personally think that this is an important topic for the crypto space and investors at large, because the way that Americans operate today is that their home is honestly their largest asset. Even though our favorite rich dad, Robert Kiyosaki, would heavily disagree.
That is a liability.
Correct. It is not an income generating activity or asset. Therefore, it is a liability. However, at the same time, due to the pure appreciation and price of real estate over the last 20, 30 years, it kind of acts like it as to a degree. So when people are able to buy and sell houses freely, what that represents is a lot of capital moving very quickly. And if it stays in the idea of an investor's or asset class for investors, that means that that those people might be trying to transfer that type of asset to a different kind of asset, aka go from either, like, I don't know, a house to crypto, or crypto to bonds, or bonds to stocks, or stocks to a house. So because the interest rates are so high, home sales are at record lows, prices are at highs, which is good and bad depending on who you are. But the fact is that right now what we're seeing is a decrease in volume, or low transfers, either into the crypto space, out of the crypto space, into the home space, out of the home space. Traditionally, a lot of people, I know the common narrative for crypto folks is, I just can't wait for this next 4-year Bitcoin cycle to run so that I can take some of that and pay for that down payment that has just been out of reach for so long. The goal is to theoretically use these things to cross-pollinate, but right now we're at a time where that's just not happening. So my question for you guys is, do you think a potential quarter-point drop, or maybe before the end of the year, if we're really lucky and we're good TradFi boys and girls, and we get 2 rate cuts before January, do you think that is going to be enough to kind of jumpstart that volume and start to see some shift in the money?
No.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, honestly.
I highly doubt it, bro. It's going to take a lot more than a quarter basis point decrease in the interest. And again, right, this is like, it's a lagging thing. It's a lagging indicator. So it's going to take a significant period of time before we actually see the positive effects of lowering of the interest rates, right? So I think you're probably going to see benefits first in the capital markets, right, and crypto, and because right, that industry moves fast and we react to news really fast, so we're gonna be able to take advantage of those cuts much sooner than most other markets. But it's gonna take a lot more, man. People are hurting right now. No, like people are hurting.
I tend to agree. By the way, Mrs. Producer, can we pull up that comment one more time? This is from our good friend Sam Stevenson. We were talking about the idea that no one's buying houses because they locked into that 3% rate. Yeah, Sam says that's what most of my friends have said about not moving right now. No one wants to let go of their rate. The rate that some people got on those loans was unheard of for the majority of human history. And to get something like that purely because of a black swan event like COVID and the government trying to reduce rates to keep the economy going, yeah, that's once in a lifetime stuff. I don't blame those people for not wanting to let go.
Here's another thing, right? Sam hadn't mentioned this, but it just popped into my head. Those people got those loans at almost basically zero, right? And then with the rate that inflation has gone up, well, they're having a much easier time paying back those damn loans. So they're
literally making money, bro. By not paying your loan, you're making money.
Yeah, like when the government started printing money, these people, bro, like their loans didn't increase. Their loans stayed the same. So their loans basically depreciated in value. So those, I'm not blaming them, bro. I'm not blaming them. I would do this exact same thing.
I think I explained this to someone recently in real life, which was why try to teach someone about crypto and that whole path, and what do you get out of it? And I was like, well, you get the unfortunate black pill where you realize that money is not what you thought it was, and that it's very fungible, and the value of your money also goes up and down a lot more than you think.
Yep.
You might still have $1 in your wallet at the start and the end of the day, but the value of that dollar might have fluctuated greatly, and depending on what's going on in the future, it can also vary very greatly. And then you start seeing not just dollars, but you see value represented by a dollar or time or energy and how it transfers and flows. And it's like, oh, wow, none of this is real. And it's all made up.
Yeah.
It's like,
the denomination
welcome to the club.
Of your capital is not the only variable that we consider when it comes to, like you said, value, right? But, most people think, like you said, most people think that the house is an asset. Most people think their fucking Jordans are an asset.
Because I bought one thing one time and I could maybe one day sell it for higher later. It's like, no, if it's not yielding you money right now, it's not an asset.
Yeah,
and it's not printing you money.
And the SEC is telling you that crypto is not an asset. We're living in a clown world.
Yeah, good sir. Traditional finance begs to differ. Yeah,
very much so.
True. Alrighty, so final point on this is I think we came to consensus, which is that don't expect really anything to change in the near future. Unfortunately, the trajectory for inflation is still a lot higher than we'd like it to be at 3% when it should be at 2%, allegedly. And at the same time, rate drops probably are not going to incentivize people to move houses and get into new loans or swap places. And additionally, peak market season is at the very beginning of the summer or the trail end of spring. So like I'm talking April, May, June, July, those are the times for people to move. We're at the end of July now, so you really shouldn't expect an increase. If anything, it's going to be a drastic decrease from the already drastic lows. So if anything, what I can say off this one is maybe expect to see more in 2025 because people have been stagnant for so long. They're just dying to get out of their place or something. But that's not this quarter. That's like 4 quarters from now.
TLDR is the Q3 thesis for interest rate is probably 1 at the very end of this quarter. That's it. Probably 1.
Agreed.
unless fucking inflation starts going up again and Jerome Powell's like, sorry, 0 this year. Because there's certainly not happening in July. We're not getting a cut in July. That's for sure.
True. Definitely true.
But if we continue to get positive news on that front, he probably will cut in September. But like you said, if we jump back up, all bets are off.
You're not wrong. All it takes is one bad reading, and it is all bets off the table.
Yeah.
Alrighty, gentlemen. Final topic of the evening. I want to talk about the general atmosphere in the United States. The reason I want to talk about this is it is an election year. Things are kind of wild. And when it comes to traditional markets, the thing that markets like is stability. So, anyone, please tell me, do you think we're going to get stability this year?
Hell no. Look, Joe Biden just dropped out of the election, the re-election campaign, right? So
today. Out. That happened today.
That happened today. So he just endorsed Kamala Harris. Some people are believing that Hillary is going to try and run again. We only have about a 4-month period of time before the election happens, right? And so you bet that these 4 months are not going to be stable. It is going to be the most unhinged, degenerate, unstable time in politics that we're ever going to have. But I'm hopeful because whoever they put up against Trump, they're going to get wrecked, bro. I spoke about this earlier in the chat, but the fact of the matter is when the incumbent, because Joe Biden is basically he's the Democratic primary nominee, right? So the people, most of the Democratic people still want him to run, right? But the powers that be, Barack Obama, second in command, Chuck Schumer, has all of the legacy news media outlets are telling him to step the hell down, right? So when the powers that be tell you to step the fuck down, and the incumbent does, that is a significant sign of weakness in the party. Really good luck trying to get the American people who are still on your side, right? If you're a Democrat and you're still on your side, if you're hoping that you're going to get their vote after you took their guy off of the ballot, really good luck, bro. Good luck.
Yeah, it's
despite all of his mistakes, they still chose him. Right.
True.
So they're not the ones who were asking him to step down. No, it was the powers that be, right? It was Barack Obama, it was Chuck Schumer, it was the legacy news media outlets.
Look,
go for it.
I was going to say it's also crazy. I mean, we're so late in the cycle, and there've been people like Vivek Ramaswamy saying for 6 months that there's no chance Biden's going to be the nominee. So is there going to be a fair nomination process? Does anyone think there's going to be a fair nomination process in the Democratic Party? I don't believe there will be one. I think they're kind of trying to handpick their candidate. If it's not Kamala, what happens to the $200 million in donations, right? Boom, gone. So I feel like they kind of have to push Kamala. I think she's a very, very weak candidate. I think that Trump would clean up if that's the case. Yeah. But, we shall see.
Yo, she would get absolutely slaughtered in the debate, bro. She cannot speak. She doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground. She cannot debate to save her life, right? She's not very articulate. She doesn't really know much about American politics. Every single time that you've heard her speak, she just I wouldn't say nonsense, but she just tried to play on people's emotions, right? There's not really a lot of substance to when Kamala Harris speaks. And so, yeah, I think you're going to have to push her if you want to keep those donations? Because let's say somebody like they put somebody else in that spot. Do you think 4 months is enough for them to get enough money for a campaign? There's no fucking way. There's no way. It's got to be her.
And a lot of their largest donors from the last cycle said they're not donating again. Like Zuck.
Yo, you guys saw that clip of Zuck?
Bro, it's like he's looking. It feels like he's gonna vote for Trump.
He says that he's staying out this time, but Zuck was like, "Yeah, man, seeing Trump pump his fist up after being shot in the face was one of the most badass things of all time." I'm like, He's like, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, Jay. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but a lot of people are feeling like this patriotic rush after that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can't stump the Trump, baby, or something.
I was having this discussion with one of my buddies the other day, and he's voted Democrat all of his his entire stint here in the United States. And I told him, look, what you're inevitably going to do is you're going to galvanize people who are sitting on the middle to vote for Trump after they saw that, right? Because you just basically proved that these people can't play fair. So people are going to start thinking, you can't beat him fairly? What is it about this guy that threatens you so badly that you have to take a shot at him like that, right? Because people that are in the middle, they're going to take these issues a lot more seriously than people who vote blue regardless or who vote red regardless, right? So what you've inevitably done is you've galvanized a lot of people who are teetering on the middle. They're now going to vote for Trump.
Yeah, so just for context, within the last 30 days, we had an unprecedented presidential debate where the active president of the United States effectively had a mental episode on stage and almost died, metaphorically and mentally, not physically. But that was enough where the apparatus that was lying about his physicality for the last 3 years suddenly flipped on a dime and was like, oh, wow, he doesn't look so good. Yeah, no, I think you knew the whole time. You just weren't willing to say it. So that happened.
Oh, it hurts.
There was turmoil within that entire camp where they were trying to convince an active president to not maybe resign, but absolutely step down from his campaign, when in reality he had already won their primary nomination and had secured it and was just waiting for the convention. And the only way to step out was for him to personally step down. And then after that, we had an assassination attempt on a former president and the current political frontrunner for the next presidency right now. And then on top of that, today, we literally just got news that the active president, who said the only person that convinced him to step down is himself, or by pressure of a lot of people around him, it's like this all happened in the last 30 days. I'm not trying to say that it's going to get worse, although I personally think it might get crazier at least. Like, I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's like, there's a distinct possibility we could see one, if not two more potential assassination attempts,
possibly
on not just on Trump specifically, but on any political candidate. It's like, this is absolutely bonkers in multiple directions, not just on the Trump side, but also on the Biden side. Unfortunately, we have had presidents and political contenders assassinated in the past. You know what we've never had before? An active president of the United States resign their nomination for a second term effectively, and then go to an open convention with a very complex process that has already been baked in. A lot of money is already tied up in PACs and campaigns that cannot be transferred. And now we have a field with, I'll be honest, very few contenders on the Democratic side of the table, which is that not a lot of people like Kamala Harris. I think Gavin Newsom is possibly one of the front runners right now. And then I think a dark horse that I could see coming up is the Bernie bros might really try to get their guy in there again. Because if he does, you say that, but remember, for the last two Democratic conventions, Bernie almost ran away with it and then only was stopped by pretty much an inside job at the last minute where they convinced everyone to get behind someone else to screw him out of the nomination.
Yeah.
That is what's happened in the last 8 years. I'm just throwing it out there.
Bro.
Would it be surprising to happen a third time?
All I gotta say is that if I was one of your constituents, right, in the Democratic Party, and you vote my guy out who'd already taken the primary nominee, that's going to leave such a bad taste in my mouth, bro. Because that's
bad blood.
The way that I'm thinking about it, bro, is like, yo, are you like this is so obvious that you guys pressured him to step down, right? Because Joe Biden might be senile, but he's still prideful. It's kind of part and parcel of being like the most powerful dude on planet Earth, right? You have to have some kind of pride baked into your character for you to be the president of the United States, right? So
I would agree as much.
I guarantee you he did not make that decision willingly, bro. And I guarantee you the overwhelming majority of the Democratic caucus right now is thinking the exact same thing. Like, I thought you guys were about democracy, but you guys pressured our guy to step down. That's going to leave a bad fucking taste in my mouth, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
but it doesn't really change the votes, right? The only people that are voting for Biden are the people that are voting against Trump. I mean, like, so are they going to change their vote? I think they're going to vote for whoever is in the blue side either way. But I do think that it's a threat to democracy when you are pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And look, people have been saying that strings have been pulled, and other people are making a lot of these decisions because Biden isn't mentally fit. We've known he's not mentally fit. You could just watch him, where he walks, how he speaks, what he looks like. It's very clear. But the media and the left has been telling you, he's the best he's ever been. I've heard people in the main show saying, this is the strongest I've ever seen Biden. He looks fantastic.
This cat's fucking top notch, dog. You wouldn't want to fuck with it. I wouldn't want to meet him in the octagon. Holy shit. He'd smoke my ass. God damn.
Look, I'll put it this way. The media has actually admitted that President Biden is currently not active for 8 hours a day. Not just active, but incapable of operating functionally for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
I will caution you, Zenith, against speaking against the most popular and most effective president in the U.S.
That's
history.
right. The most popularly elected president in history. Somehow.
Hashtag fortified.
So
for the folks at home,
I'm going to try to connect some final dots here. Sorry, I will. So
no, go ahead.
Yes, political upheaval is afoot. Anyone could have told you that. Does it feel like it can get crazier? Not really, but it absolutely can, considering that Trump hasn't even been sentenced yet for the that thing he was convicted of back in New York, which was 32 felony counts of fraudulently reporting business charges under some randomly stated other crime that was required to charge this crime as a felony instead of a misdemeanor, even though it expired the statute of limitations. That's neither here nor there. It can get crazier, but the point for crypto folks is that I think right now, and in particular, the Biden news that happened today is important to crypto folks because who was the person that vetoed SAB 121? Who was the person that rejected the bill that was approved by two other houses of Congress, including both parties? That was the guy that just stepped down. So no matter what happens from here, one of the main obstructors of crypto in the congressional and legislative sense is out of the way.
Yeah. Also, on that note, Z, aside from, so obviously Biden stepping down, Trump endorsing Bitcoin, those things from a political landscape, good for the space, right? However, you also have to consider, we got JD Vance, very pro-crypto. Apparently one of the largest holders of AVAX. He's also, like, there's a clip going around, we'll show it next time, of him, a very outspoken towards how Gary Gensler has basically handled the SEC and how he's handled
I love that clip.
Yeah, his regulation by enforcement, right? He was very polite. He was like, nothing against him personally, but he's mishandled this space and his duties as SEC chair in regards to crypto. Very irresponsible. So he's been very outspoken against Gary Gensler. Also, I was watching an interview with Congressman French Hill, right? He's one of the big dogs in the House Financial Services Committee. Also very bullish on the fact that despite President Biden vetoed 121, he assured when he was on that podcast, he was like, look, man, I can guarantee you right now that both in the Senate and in Congress, we are working in a bipartisan manner to get good crypto regulation out of the House, out of the Senate, and into the president's desk, right? He assured that. And he assured that even though another big event, right, both Congress and Senate are going into recess at the very end of July and at the very beginning of August. And so a lot of people are thinking, well, does that give us enough time to actually pass meaningful crypto regulation before there's a turnover? Because remember, we're also going to get a vote in Congress and Senate, right, every 2 years.
Down ballot votes, baby.
Yep. In addition to the election in November, we're also getting elections in the Congress and Senate. And French Hill was like, look, man, we are trying our best to meet the deadline, even to pass meaningful crypto regulation as fast as possible before that happens. And even if we don't get anything done before the turnover happens, I guarantee you it's one of our first priorities during like 2025 and beyond, right? And so he's basically assuring the American people that, like, look, this is one of the few issues that we have extreme bipartisan support in both the Republican side, the Democratic side, in Congress and in Senate, right? And so, yeah, even I know people are paying attention a lot to Donald Trump and to Joe Biden, but remember, when it comes to our representatives in the House and in the Senate, like, these people are also working very hard and trying to work as fast as possible to get meaningful crypto regulation out of the door, right? So there's a lot of things to be bullish outside of the fact that Joe Biden has given up his re-election campaign, and aside from the fact that Donald Trump is the pro-crypto president, right? There's a lot of things happening down the ballot that's also very pro-crypto.
That's true. Again, just because it's not at the top of the news doesn't mean it's not important. There's a lot of other election races going on besides the presidency, and they are going to be just as important, if not more important, considering that is the other branch of Congress, namely the one that creates legislation. The president cannot create legislation. He can only approve or deny it. I mean, outside of executive action. But again, I do have some hope there with Chevron deference being overturned. So hopefully the federal administrations get reined in, and that is all I can hope for. As of right now, though, gentlemen, do we have any final notes on the thesis? I think overall the thesis for this show was it's going to be a bumpy ride. Don't expect too much change. And at the same time, in the crypto markets, if anything, it's going to be sideways to slightly up and a lot more up at the end of the year and into 2025.
Yes, sir. Dude, Santa Rally
is going to be fire.
Yeah.
Santa Rally could be very real this year.
Yep. Donald Trump presidency, Santa Rally. Jerome Powell says interest we're going to start cutting in September. Yo, man. My goodness, that is going to be crazy. Hey, I'm hopeful that we turn over both the Senate and the White House this year, to be honest. Yeah.
That would be good news. That would be very good news. But at the same time, you also got to have the stones to do things when you do have power. Because if you remember correctly, back at the beginning of the last Trump presidency, I believe that Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and still didn't really do much of anything for 2 years. So there's other factors at play here at large. So
Politics
don't put all your hopes and dreams.
Moving vehicle, my friend.
True.
Par for the course.
Don't put all your hopes and dreams onto a single politician or a single group of politicians. I would recommend working locally in your community to make small changes that actually impact your life. And in the big stuff like this, do what you can, but understand there's a lot of other people in the country that are also voting, so your impact is going to be a lot smaller.
And nobody really cares about you.
I care about you, B.
But yeah.
Well, thank you. I just mean like these big politicians. They don't really care about us on either side.
That's true. That's true. Alrighty, gentlemen, we have hit the 2-hour mark, and we have hit all of our topics for this evening. I thought this was a killer stream. We covered everything we wanted to cover. Good depth. We even had a few questions, but yeah, other than that, Will, he is correct. The man with the sign.
It's time for motherfucking chat shoutouts, baby. So let's do it.
True. Alrighty, first up, we have Frank White saying bang bang pulse gang. Good to see you, Frank White. Up next, we have Dre Sims, who had a lot of different comments this evening, but my producer has chosen to highlight this one to make me read it out. Hear me out. 3 Jews walk into a bar.
The second part of that joke is that the fourth one ducks and he misses it.
And they said, ouch.
Hey.
Yep. Thank you, Brendan.
I mean, the only other joke I can come up with that rivals that one is that 2 peanuts walk into a bar. One is a salted.
Jesus Christ.
All right. I think we should go back to chat shoutouts.
We're going to hell. We're all going to hell.
Last chat shout out of the evening goes to Ray, saying to many dummies.
Too many dummies.
Too.
But
fucking A right.
Oh, too many dummies. Yes, correct. Too many dummies. Fair enough. Alrighty, gang. We are coming to the close for the evening, for the show this evening. I'm going to pass it over to the good people of the panel and ask where we can find them and what they have coming up in the future. So, Mr. Internet Rugged himself, a.k.a. Brendan, what do you got going on, man?
Hey, man, just here to help help the people, join our community, join our Telegram. We got a lot of new things coming up in the future, and I am very excited about where we are going as a community. So please share with your family, your friends. We'd love to see more people in our Telegram, more people watching us on YouTube, and we might just have a blue check on Twitter soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But man, no, not too much other than that. Just excited, and I will see you all back on a stream here in the next week.
And for the folks at home who are curious where you guys can find Mr. Brendan, I've gone ahead and dropped his link. x.com/anonymous_bean is where you can catch all this cat's excellent Twitter posts and everything. And other than that, you can catch him in the DGen Roundtable Telegram group, which is t.me/DRT join now, which I will also copy and paste. If you guys aren't already in our Telegram group, go ahead and head on in there. Again, you can find that link over in the live chat below. Mr. Agent J, bro, where can the fine folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future, my friend?
So Telegram Tuesdays with Dace, we're going to go over a market open stream. As always, any emergency streams that I feel like doing, they're only going to be in the Telegram chat. So scan that QR code, join the conversation, because a lot of the alpha drops there first. Also, like the damn video, comment, subscribe, because if you don't like the damn video, Donald Trump might just choose Jamie Dimon as Treasury Secretary. So you definitely don't want that happening.
Don't do that. Don't let that happen.
So like the damn video. As always, you can find me on X at _P90Hex, on Instagram at agent_J Schroth. Thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful Sunday evening. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us. Until next time, Will.
Well, aloha, amigos. My name is Will Stevenson, and I want to know, are you a cryptocurrency enthusiast looking to expand your business network and get your personal venture noticed by like-minded individuals? Well, imagine having a platform where you can easily connect with fellow crypto users, share your business, and find new opportunities to collaborate and grow. Whether you're offering a service, product, or simply looking to do business within the crypto community, this is your chance. By adding yourself to my exclusive spreadsheet, which I'm going to drop over here in the comments once I pull up the correct tab. My goodness, it is all sorts of kerfunculated, right? But then what you need to do is add yourself to this exclusive spreadsheet at bit.ly/crypto_bro_service. You'll get a unique shout out for your business, not live on the show or anything, but just like within this spreadsheet, to a targeted audience of cryptocurrency users. This isn't just about visibility. It's about creating a trusted network where you can find new clients, partners, and friends who also share your passion for cryptocurrency. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Click the link over in the live chat right now to add your business details to my spreadsheet and join a thriving community of crypto-savvy entrepreneurs. Connect, collaborate, and watch your business flourish with the power of the crypto network. Empower your business with the support of the crypto community. Join us today. As far as me, you guys can find me and everything that I do at will.pls.fyi. That's where all of my socials are located at. If you want to check out anything that I do, that's the starting point for you guys. And that's all that I got. Mr. Zenith, why don't you go ahead and take us out, brother?
Will do. So I got a few things to shout out. First off, we do have Crypto Sloth, aka Dr. Toothslayer, in the chat saying yo, catching the tail end of the stream, but we are glad you are catching the stream at all, my man. Always a pleasure to see you. We are coming to the end of the stream, but there's another stream going on right now with some of our very good friends. This week's episode of Tacos and Kimchi with Mr. Angry Twinkie and Crypto Boogie is going on over on Boogie's channel right now. So go check it out after the stream. And additionally, if you want even more content, we have another great friend of ours, aka the Camel Trader, aka Fast Abdul. He actually had a show with BitBoy earlier today. So if you go check out BitBoy's channel, I believe the video is titled Zone 5, Beating Inflation and the Value of the Crypto Community. Fast Abdul is on there looking dapper in a tweed jacket with a bookshelf background, which I'm assuming he's going to change out at some point. But yeah, we have a lot of our friends doing big things around the space, and we love to shout out our friends whenever we can to help cross-promote and cross-pollinate and grow together, because that's what we're all doing here, realistically. Other than that, you guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at ZenithDI. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a message, tag me in a meme, anything. Love any and all of it. And if you have any questions about the Q3 thesis, go ahead and hit me up on there, or just at any of us inside our own Telegram, which, by the way, QR code down below. So scan that. get in there and ask us anything you want. Other than that, Mrs. Producer, please do get ready. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that time is your most valuable asset. So we want to thank you every time when you choose to come and spend it with us. We appreciate every second of it, and we hope that we can all grow and learn to be better investors together. And until we catch you good folks next time, I hope that everyone out there continues to degen responsibly.